Welcome back. Lady Gaga admits she was addicted to pot. That admission came during a radio interview where the singer said being high helps fuel her creativity. She says she is coming clean to warn young people about the dangers of drugs. Listen.
I want to show people that I will last past 27, and I will last longer, and so will you. And I want to change this code in the atmosphere that in order to be remembered, I must die young. In order to be remembered as a legend, I must be dead first.
A powerful statement. She says she's going to live past 27, and she's referring to the so-called 27 Club. It's a name for a group of musicians who all died at the age of 27.
So Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Kurt Cobain, and Amy Winehouse are just a few of the iconic musicians who helped define rock and roll before taking their own lives at 27 years old. Did you know that? Did you know that similarity amongst them? I didn't know
I
that.
knew some of them, but not the whole list.
So Howard, a new book called 27, A History of the 27 Club. And he joins us now live from London. Thank you, sir, for joining us. We appreciate your time this morning. We're going to circle back to Lady Gaga, but first, there are a lot of conspiracy theories out there about how these stars died. What do you make of all of that?
Well, I think that's nonsense, really. A great deal of rubbish has been written about these stars. But if we examine their lives, we find that their deaths are easily explicable and real tragedies that were happening because they were very unhappy, troubled people.
And is that the common denominator, just their unhappiness?
Well, we see the six big stars, Brian Jones, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison of The Doors, Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse. If we trace their lives back to childhood, as I do in my new book, 27, we find they had difficult childhoods, difficult relationships with their parents. They got into trouble with drink and drugs early in life, and they were unstable people with personality disorders that were all in place before they became famous. And then they became famous overnight, and the pressures of fame in their early 20s was another burden on people who were already psychologically weak.
So you heard Lady Gaga just a little while ago. She talked about her drug use and, you know, just kind of made a mention also about your book, this number 27. What worries you most about the music industry? Is it, you know, the propensity of drug use there and that we're going to see more of these artists join this 27 Club?
Well, young people are drawn to the music business. They want to become famous. They want to express themselves. And when we have someone like Lady Gaga or Amy Winehouse, who are perhaps unstable people, they express their inner angst through their music. And that's very entertaining for us, the public. And the music business loves them because they sell records. But often they're not looked after. They're left to fend for themselves. And in 27, we find, in the book 27, we find that many of these stars were surrounded by people who were very unhelpful to them. Their nearest and dearest weren't there for them. And they often had flaky partners who were half the problem. Don't forget, Kurt Cobain married Courtney Love. Amy Winehouse married Blake Fielder Civil. They all had drug problems. They were all in the same unhealthy world.
I want to pick this up and push it forward. I'm going to read part of your book here. You talk about family history and taking this line of relationships. Let's put it up on the screen. In a sense, we should thank the parents of the 27s, inadequate as many were, for creating an environment conducive to artists. If Mommy and Daddy had provided happier homes, their sons and daughters might have passed into anonymity. They might still be alive, but who would have heard of the optometrist Brian Jones, or who would have known Jimi Hendrix, the landscape gardener, or care about Janis Joplin, Port Arthur housewife? I mean, is there some blame that we as the buying public, as the fans, that we should accept for, in some way, enjoying their pain?
Well, I think that's the nature of show business. A great artist expresses themselves, their inner self, the turmoil they're going through. They turn that into art. Amy did that brilliantly, so did Janis Joplin, and I guess to an extent Lady Gaga does. And of course that's a spectacle, it's a freak show. It's entertaining to watch, but in many cases they're going through hell. And what we find with the 27s is they're self-destructive, and their life is a kind of long suicide.
I think also there's this issue of romanticizing their lives and maybe even their deaths. Did you find that?
Well, yes. I mean, certainly by dying at 27, you make a big statement, and your memory is perpetuated through the generations. I mean, would we have remembered Brian Jones? Would we have remembered Jim Morrison if they'd lived into middle age and old age? And if they'd lost their looks, become middle-aged, become boring, made bad records, endless comeback tours, they may have faded away, but we remember them as young people in their prime. And of course, these stars made some of the greatest of rock music of the past 40, 50 years. Think of the Doors, Riders on the Storm, Janis Joplin, Me and Bobby McGee, the Rolling Stones, Paint It Black, Amy Winehouse, Rehab. These are all songs made by the 27s, and it's great music.
Well, Howard Sounes, it's a fascinating book, great pictures in it as well. I hope there are no more members of that 27 club, though. Thank you for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a fascinating conversation, though, because you think about some of the huge stars like Michael Jackson. If Michael Jackson had not continued to make music for as long as he did, would we remember him differently? So, yeah, I think it's a great conversation.
Compelling.